What are you saying, bro? You ready for another lesson?
Man, I can't wait, man. It's been a while, So.
That's a screw.
You can even tell already, you know?
Hey, right rudder, that's it.
Wheel 01, you can backtrack now.
Need to be over the field in between the two.
Alright.
What do you know about increasing the angle of bank?
Full speed.
Exactly.
You're fine, you're on the centre line, and then suddenly you're not, bro.
Next time you're in a grass, bro.
That landing. I'm worn out.
Are you aiming to be a commercial pilot?
Yes, at some point.
Yes, so these calls, they have to be made in a commercial environment. Well done, mate. You're gonna make a good commercial pilot.
Thank you.
I'll walk up behind the aircraft.
You're very behind the aircraft. We've got a fuel leak. Are we? Yeah.
By the way, go to the whiskey, sorry, which is quite strong. Mate, you're gonna make a good commercial pilot.
You still have control.
No, you tell me when you want to take control. You tell me when you want to take control.
Ever? Do I have to?
Yes. As I say so. Bear in mind, you're going to have to work with what you've got, normally. What do you need?
That's what I'll make use of what I've got.
Previously on Future Pilot 901.
Okay, how you feeling?
Feeling good?
Good. You're gonna go solo.
Okay. Student Will 08 is ready for departure. We are off.
Student Wheel 08, surface wind is 330 at 9 knots, we've got one to vacate.
Student Will 08.
Charlie Kilo, right base, get out to land. Student Wheel 08, minute takes and well done.
This aircraft is so nice to flow with.
Yeah, very nice.
Victor Golf, clear to enter starting Victoria airspace now in the climb to altitude 3,000 feet, heading 090 degrees.
Just 3,000 feet is very nice and smooth.
Yeah.
It's not like in the cloud.
Golf, resume our location, Sierra Lima Villa. This comes the procedure report on boat flights established.
The whole point of getting your IMC is you fly clouds. That's sort of where we are roughly. See?
Okay.
So we came in for an approach on runway 23. We did a missed approach, and now we're being vectored around to do another approach into runway.
Ever since I was a kid, I had a dream of becoming a pilot, but could never afford it. One day I decided to stop making excuses, to sacrifice my comfort, to make my dream happen. My name is D, and this is my journey. This is Future Pilot 901. Yes. What's up, people, ladies and gents, aviators, aviation enthusiasts? Welcome back to Future Pilot 901 live on Kick and YouTube every Monday, 7 p.m. UTC. I'm your future captain. My name is D, and this is FPNO episode number 31. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been an amazing week. If you've not been joining us on our live streams, I'm not sure what to say. There's been a lot of information, a lot of gems that have been dropped by some of the amazing guests that I've had all week. We've been live since Monday, every evening. I was joined on Monday by Pri and Veronica. Pri is a flight instructor. Veronica is aspiring pilot, both multiple-time flying scholarship winners. So you're going to want to go back to that if you missed it. Then on Tuesday, I caught up with my old gang, Tyrone, Isaac Stewart, an artist, and Mo, the steady athlete. And we talked about getting healthy, keeping fit, and also smashing those goals. Then yesterday I caught up with Lily, who is an airworthiness engineer and a trainee commercial pilot. And she had a lot to say about overcoming challenges and also overcoming and being resilient, really, to get past those rejections. And then today I'm going to have some amazing guests. I can't wait to have the conversation. Make sure you put your questions in the chat. Okay, because you are going to want to pick these guests' brains, okay, on their journeys. Shout out to the chat. I see Daniel's got some fans already. Shout out to Kiki in the chat. Shout out to Manish in the chat. And shout out to everyone else that's going to join along the way. It's been a great week. It's been a great week, and I can't wait to talk about becoming a pilot and some of the common mistakes that pilots make and how to avoid them. All right, people. Well, today, unfortunately, is the last stream for this week in terms of having guests on. Sorry, guys. But not sorry, because we're going to give you a great show today. We're going to give you a lot of information. So make sure you get your notepads out, get your questions out, put them in the chat. Put them in the chat. All right. Now, before we get going, today, the air pilots closed their applications for the PPL scholarship. So if you missed out on that, but you really wanted to, chuck your hat in the ring to get yourself a scholarship, there's still another opportunity that's available to you, particularly if you're an aspiring pilot looking to take your first steps into aviation. Check it out.
Shuttle locked, resisting upward pressure. Brakes and canopies closed and locked. Black cable on please.
The best part. I can't see everything.
Yeah, but everything, yeah.
I mean...
Oh, it was so fun. I felt like I learned so much in just a week.
Generally, it's been really nice actually to get to know new people.
A gliding scholarship.
Gliding scholarship. And the scholarship. Gliding scholarship. gliding scholarship.
Gliding scholarship by air pilots.
Yes, make sure you apply to the gliding scholarships. Applications are still open. So go to the website. It's in the chat, airpilots.org/scholarship. Check out the eligibility criteria. Make sure that you fit in and put in the best application you can put in. I just saw Lily in the chat. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Lily. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, ladies and gents, it's time for me to introduce my guests for today. Well, one of them recently got his PPL, his private pilot's license, after overcoming a lot of adversity, a lot of challenges, a lot of rejection in order to get there. So he's shown a lot of resilience. The other is a flight instructor, and he's been flying now for about 25 years, if I've counted it correctly. So a lot of experience there, a lot of experience. So make sure you pick his brains. Without further ado, here they are.
Just trust me, you'll be fine. And when I'm back in Chicago, I feel it. Another version of me, I was in it.
Celebration, celebration, jubilation, jubilation, no, 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 celebration, celebration, what we gon' do for our life, we go there, all I do, my love, my lola, my rade, my rade, my jaye, my ramoto, my love, we go, she do, my lola, my lola, my rade, my rade.
Yes, you saw him in action there, instructing like he usually does, helping other people live their dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not the first time he's appeared on the channel, but let's give him a great big welcome. This is Keno.
Hey guys.
And the crowd goes wild. And also, not new to the channel, one of our mods, and now a PPL. This is Daniel. Shout out to you, Daniel.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation today. And yeah, hopefully we're going to make this worth your while. That is definitely our intention. First of all, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. I never take it for granted. And Happy New Year to you guys. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It's first time I'm seeing you guys in the digital flesh in 2026. Keno, how's it going?
Yeah, it's getting really good, man. It really, couldn't be much better.
Great to hear from you, man. Daniel, freshly getting your license.
Yeah.
How are you doing, man? Happy New Year to you, brother.
Happy New Year. Yeah, like you know it. I've been enjoying the license.
Yeah.
Done a couple of flights to the coast. Nice and sunny. Got lucky. Cab okay. So yeah, doing really well.
Nice. Good to have you on, man. Listen, you and I need to pick this guy's brain, man. We need to pick Keno's brain. So I hope you came with some questions as well, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
I love to hear it. Love to hear it. So Keno, tell us a bit about yourself, what you do. Again, you're not a stranger to the channel, but some people might be joining in for the first time, meeting you for the first time. Just give us a brief into like what you do day to day and your where you are in aviation at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks. In terms of background, basically, I started playing Flight Simulator when I was 4. Right. I'm that kind of nerd. Right. I think by the time I was 12, I'd probably spent about 2,000 hours on Flight Sim. You know, and the fact that I knew I'd spent 2,000 hours lets you know Yeah.
Wow,
It's fun.
that is wild.
Yeah, but the actual journey towards the flight deck. So I started at 8. I think I took my first flight lesson when I was 8. But because I already spent so much time on flight sim, I sort of went straight into circuits, and it was really good fun. Joined the Air Cadets when I was in school. And that was really incredible. As you all know, the best type of flying is free flying, right? So flying in the Air Cadets was really wonderful. The fact that you could go gliding and flying and doing all of these things and learning skills like leadership and teamwork, it was all like amazing, and then yeah, pretty much every single birthday, Christmas, money, anything I could get jobs, I just put everything towards flying. Went solo at 16. I think I got my license after I graduated, so 21-ish. Just sort of funding step by step. I got a microlight license. Went off to get my PPL after that, and I've just kept upgrading, like literally one thing every year, and it's sort of been like a very long journey. So from the first flight till now has been about 25 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
Really
actually,
cool.
I forgot to say that actually, yeah, then became an instructor. So I've been instructor for about 6 years, taking people away from literally their very first ever flight to first solo, all the way through to now teaching more of the advanced stuff. So the multi-engine, MEIR, that kind of end of the flying, and ultimately became an examiner. So now I'm one of the people who decides whether you get your license or not, mostly for instrument training.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about you, kind of, because I train at the school just across the pond from Blackbush Aviation. I've heard you teach the MEI
Nice.
there. Yeah, I've heard, so I might be coming
Yeah,
over.
you do, yeah. You're always
Might be
welcome.
coming.
Always welcome. Shout out Blackbush. Blackbush is a great school. It's one that,
Yeah.
I think we'll talk about this later on in the stream when Dee's back, but definitely if it's your own money,
yeah,
you really want to be careful where you do your flight training, making sure you get value from it. And one of the few schools that the people who own it they're not out to scam you. Whereas we all know that some schools out there that
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you put money in and it just disappears, basically.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of horror stories. I know. So I got to the TUI MPL the final stage a couple of years ago.
What you do actually is D disappeared?
Say again, sorry. Oh, D's dropped out. He's got some internet issues. But yeah, no. Speaking of the sort of,
they said you got to the TUI MPL, the final stage.
Yeah, the TUI MPL.
Oh, have you dropped out too? Is this the Keno show? Hello. Oh dear. I'm sure I could hear anyone. Can you guys? Oh, this is moderately awkward. Oh.
Check, check, check. Am I back? Am I back? Let's see. Do you know what? Today's stream is going to be so amazing that they're trying to block it. Computer, who's messing with my computer? Ay, ay, ay. Well, these things happen. Unfortunately, we live in a technological world, and when you have a certain brand of computers, they tend to restart very randomly sometimes. I won't say which brand it is, but some people will know. Some people will know. Anyhow, I'm just giving giving Keno and Daniel a second before I just pop them back on the live suddenly when we just got booted out. Here we go.
Hello again.
Yeah, hello again. We're back.
Hello again. Great start.
I do not know what happened there. Literally, computer said no.
Yeah, you weren't the only one. I think my internet dropped out just there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At one point, it was just the Keno show. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh, was it?
It was a Keno show, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I would have thought if I dropped off, maybe like while my computer was shutting down, then it left you on, because it should really boot all of you out if I'm hosting it and I'm not on.
Right.
But Kiki says you need to get Virgin.
I've got Virgin internet. It's not the internet, it's the computer that literally it went blank. It just shut down and I had to like manually restart it. So you know what brand it is, because the other brand doesn't tend to restart like that.
What, the one that's a piece of fruit?
Say that again?
The one that's a piece of fruit.
Piece of fruit. The piece of fruit does not restart like that.
I know. Yeah, maybe that's the one that should all be on.
Exactly. But I'm on the other one, so yeah, when it gets a bit cold, you have to close the windows, and it decided to close the windows on me. So some of you will get that, some of you won't, but it's cool. Back to where we were. Keno, you were telling us what you do and where you are in your journey at the moment. So you got to cadets. You got to cadets, I remember.
Okay, yeah. So the Air Cadets was brilliant. There's nothing like free flying, and the Air Cadets. I think in total they paid for about 15 hours worth of my flying. Now most of it wasn't loggable, but the fact is you still learn the skills for free. So that was incredible. I did a gliding scholarship as well. That's why I first went solo, and then since then it's just been, got my license at 21 on a microlight because it's the cheapest thing. And then I sort of upgraded to airplane later and then became an instructor because that's even better than free flying, is you actually get paid to fly, and then ultimately became an examiner. And someone just pointed out, I think it was Mr. Assad there, just pointed out that, I did get my type rating about a year ago.
Way, let's go.
That is monumental. Well done.
Thanks.
That is insane.
Incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
Incredible.
737s. Yeah, got my 737 type rating about a year ago. I can tell you that type rating school is intense. If you think your PPL is intense, do a type rating.
Damn. What makes it so intense?
Well, it depends on whether, it's there's just a lot to know, and a lot that needs to be known by memory. You need to have really deep systems knowledge. You really need to know your aircraft inside out, back to front, and the aircraft are just a lot more complex. You can't compare a 737 to a 152. 152, the systems are very, very simple. It's single pilot. Whereas when you move to the 737, first of all, the systems are just way more complex. There's the pneumatic system, electrics, AC, DC. You've got, lots of different fuel tanks, fuel management, flight management computers. It's just a way more complex to deal with, and you have to get your head around all those systems. not just when they work normally, but also especially when they have malfunctions. And even like how to use a checklist, you sort of have to learn that all over again, because Boeing have a certain philosophy of checklist, Airbus have a different philosophy of dealing with things, and then also learning how to fly with somebody else, you know, when it's not just about you and your decision making, but how do you work as a team? What's your area of responsibility? What's your role? And what happens when like your roles are reversed? You know, it's really interesting, like how you have to be able to switch into different roles all the time. And you know, the big thing is that when you do your type rating, you then have to be really, really professional. Like you really have to be on it, because the checklist doesn't include everything. The checklist probably writes down about 30% of the things that you do. So most things you just do, and then you check only the most important ones. And because the other, let's say that you're the first officer, the other guy's the captain, you know, they can't be checking your work because they have to do all their actions too. So there's a lot of trust, you know, between the two of you. And that's very, very different, because up to that point, you've been single pilot, you make all the decisions, you have the full picture, and, you know, you have to rely on each other. It's very interesting dynamic.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds interesting, but also in some ways daunting. Because when you go through PPL, you're like, yeah, that was a bit, you know, took a little bit. And then you go through your CPL and people are like, oh, ATPLs are, and then you're like, no, type rating.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
amazing. So what do you? Yeah, let's keep going. So you got your type rating. We jumped a little bit there. So you've got yourself a scholarship. You went solo because of it, and you became an instructor. So what do you instruct in? How long have you been instructing for? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I've been a flight instructor for the last 6.5 years. It'll be 7 years in April, which is quite exciting. It's gone very, very quickly, and it's mostly GA things. So a lot of teaching in 152s, 172s, PA28s, all the sort of staples, diamonds, you know, and then obviously move up the food chain as you. I've paid my. I've done the circuit to death now. So then you move on to teaching like instrument and multi-engine. And then, you know, most of the multi-engine stuff is in the W2. So that's very fun indeed.
Nice. And I see that you also are an engineer. Has it on your LinkedIn? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So engineering is like so much fun. So I studied engineering at uni. That was very intense. You know, I seem to have this love of things that are quite intense, in case you haven't noticed. So like,
What uni did you go to?
I'm a bit of a nerd, so I went to Cambridge, and that was very intense, but very, very fun as well. You know, no, it was fun. You know, the one thing I think people have like a misconception of is that everyone who goes to Cambridge is like a nerd, not a normal person, not approachable. Maybe like 10 people, but actually most people are just like the normal people from Europe are pretty hard actually. And so engineering was very intense. Sort of went on to work on projects in like technotronics, and that's what I've done for basically 10 years. And engineering has been like really interesting, really rewarding. I joined a startup right at the very beginning, and we sort of grew to like 80 people. So that's been like very fun as well. It's also funded by flight training. So, you know, as you already know, like the industry can be very up and down. So sometimes it's good to have a backup, you know, stuff that actually can put food in your fridge, even when it's bad, or even when COVID is happening, stuff like that.
I am so paranoid that this computer is going to switch off again, because last time, Keno, you started glitching for me. Your video started glitching for me before it went. Am I glitching, or can you hear me good?
I can hear you good, yeah.
Okay, and my video is good?
Yeah, your video is good. Am I glitching?
No, you've been fine. Okay. Cool. Amazing. So how did you get into like flight simming so early? Like how does that happen? How do you even have that in your environment? Like at that age, when you start, like I didn't even know what flight sim was. I just knew big plane. Oh, I really want to fly it one day. That was as far as my knowledge went. So what was that like for you?
So I think there's two to that really. So first is my dad was a pilot. He flies helicopters. But somehow I've always been interested in planes. I remember once we went to visit like one of his friends when I.
Oh, I think Keno's dropped out.
Yeah, Keno's dropped out.
Maybe he was the one glitching.
Yeah.
Let me have a look at the chat. Again, you got plenty of people shouting you out, Mr. Daniel, and we'll hear from you in just a second.
Everyone's so kind.
Yeah, we got a question for Keno there from Kiki. We'll bank that. What's your biggest tips for ATPL ground school? Yes, we'll definitely come to that. Tips for exams, tips for training, will definitely come to that. So yeah, stay tuned because we will be doing that. Shout out to Basil in the chat. Shout out to you. Basil is
Basil.
Air Pilots PPL scholar from last year. Yeah, so weird now. I had to check myself to say it's last year. 2025 was literally like just over a week ago. Yeah. I'm surprised I'm getting the dates right. So Daniel, as Keno's coming back on, Daniel, tell us a bit about your journey, a bit about how you got into aviation and how you got your PPL recently.
Yeah. It's not a lot to talk about. I'm joking.
All right, guys, the show's finished. Thank you very much. Go home.
Go home. Good night. But no, I mean, I'd say 10% of why I'm here today is probably to do with just that childhood fascination for aircraft, I'd say. Got the opportunity to fly loads on British Airways, 777, different parts of the world with my parents. But I quickly figured out that pilot training was going to be a very significant financial commitment for my family.
When did you realize that?
I'd say probably when I was about 14. And I'd say at that point, I didn't really think too much about becoming a pilot. I considered it. I thought it would be fantastic if I could do that. But then I quickly figured out that you can just get a private pilot's license. And I also kind of lied to myself that I'd be more interested in engineering, which is what I ended up doing. So went to University of Surrey, smashed my GCSEs A-levels, got to Surrey, studied aeronautical engineering, did that to a master's level, and really got stuck into computational fluid dynamics. So that ended up being my final year thesis. I got really good at turbulence modeling. I thought I was going to go into that. And you might want to press like a sad button for this. But then COVID happened. So I worked at Collins Aerospace just before that happened. And they weren't hiring anymore. So I couldn't make it back. So I felt like I was starting all over again. I already gave up on being a pilot because it was too expensive. Next best thing was work on aircraft, and that wasn't going to happen. So I ended up doing construction for a while as a mechanical site engineer. And I'd say at this point in my life, I completely gave up on being a pilot, completely. I thought, again, you just sort of lie to yourself that you don't really want to fly, or I can invest in a flight sim. And, actually, I'm not really interested in flying the aircraft. I'm more interested in traveling to different places. So I just kind of told myself that, mainly because I was scared, if I'm being honest with you. I thought, I was scared. I thought it was going to be a waste of time if I pursued this. And, I went through a very tough period, I'd say. Because when you lack sort of that inner spark and purpose, life becomes very sad. Personally, it's very, very sad. You're sort of doing things that you don't really want to do. You're trying to find the interest in it. I mean, I am lucky that I did find other passions that kept me going, but nothing as good as flying. So I'd say what I'm about to talk about was day one for becoming a pilot for me. My older sister, she's my biggest fan. She bought me a trial flight for my birthday. And peak of COVID, she bought that ticket, so I couldn't actually redeem the ticket until 2 years later. But again, because I was so scared of it, I just put in the back burner because I knew that if I stepped into an aircraft, I'm gonna want to be a pilot again. And the thought of that hurt me more actually than not pursuing the passion. But anyway, we went for the trial flight, did what was it, like effects of or controls, exercise 4, and that was it. We landed the plane. I bought my logbook, and I called my sister. I'm like, I'm gonna be a pilot now. That's literally where it all started. And this happened in I'd say 2022, so not long ago, to be honest. At that point, completely I mean, everything up until that point, gave up on being a pilot completely.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting, because around the 2020 mark as well, that's when I really started taking my journey really seriously and really trying to, push for it. So yeah, it's interesting that was a similar timing for you as well. So then how did you get to fill in the gap, so between that first trial flight and then getting the license, and now you're a qualified pilot and you can
definitely
go flying?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot has happened in that gap. On paper it looks that's about 3 years, but so much happened. I had different parts of my life that were going on. So did the trial lesson, figured out that I couldn't afford it like everyone else. So I went back home, I spoke to my sister about it, and she's like, okay, just start saving money. At some point, we're going to revisit and see how far we can get with the license. So that's exactly what I did. I left my job in construction, moved into management consulting for data analytics, because I thought this is a career that matches sort of what makes me tick, looking for problems and solving them, but also it had the highest earning potential for the shortest amount of time from what I was seeing. Because I had a lot of friends back then who were getting to data science and fintech and all of that. So I thought, you know what? I've got the skills from my aerospace degree. I knew a bit of Python. So I was like, I'm going to train myself to do this. So left that job in construction, lost the job opportunity that I left that job for. And I went through 6 months of being unemployed, working night shifts at the Royal Albert Hall, and then just teaching myself Python during the day, because I was kind of locked in. I was thinking, I need to go for a career that gives me enough money that I could revisit pilot training at some point. And if I don't revisit pilot training, at least I got a high paying job now. So that was sort of the first year in those 3 years that we're talking about right now. So I got to a point where I figured out, there are scholarships around, the communities around this. So I thought, I'm going to get stuck in.
Yeah.
Sorry, I dropped out for a second. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah. So you figured out scholarships?
Yeah, figured out scholarships, figured out the Air League. If you're not a member of the Air League, make sure you join the Air League. Got stuck in, and I thought to myself, I'm going to keep applying to these scholarships until I get one. As soon as I get one, I'm just going to start training. But in that time, that's when the schemes started opening up, right? So we had the TUI MPL open up. We had Speedbird open up in that time. And so the first one I applied to was the TUI MPL. And I'll say this is a point in my pilot journey where I thought, should I be a pilot? I think most people go through this journey thinking, I want to be a pilot. I want to be a pilot. To get to that to get to the point where you are a pilot, you're going to go through. I want to be a pilot. Should I be a pilot? Can I be a pilot? Then you're going to go back up to should I be a pilot again? And then you start to become a pilot, right? So getting through that scheme for the MPL, going through the process for the MPL was that point where I really started to think about, should I be a pilot, if that makes sense. I really started to think about the lifestyle, what this is going to take. Do I have realistic expectations about what I'm about to do? How's this going to affect my family, my future family? Do I really want to do this? Can I not just settle for anything else in life? Why this? Why this? And that thought process is probably what consolidated my motivation that took me through the PPL and through all these I'd say the lowest moments of my journey outside of training and within training. And I mean, there are a couple of people in the chat, but I'm just going to name names like you've got Kieran, Manish, Bash, Javeria, my sister, countless people who were sort of there along the way. But major props to Manish, I'd say, because he was my ex-manager at the time. But we sort of went through that process together, I'd say. And I got to the final stage of the 2E MPL. I got to the sim assessment back then. And I thought, for the first time ever, I thought, I can be a pilot. Everything up until that point was just, I want to do this. I'm not sure. I want to do this. And at that point in time, I was forced to face the reality of the Class 1 medical. I've been putting it off for a very long time because of the cost, but ultimately, because I just knew that I probably wasn't going to do very well. I was just really scared. I was massively overweight at the time. And looking at the 2E MPL as well at the time, and the BA scheme, Wizz Air had a scheme back then, looking at the entry requirements about sort of being able to swim 50 meters unaided, treading water for 5 minutes. I mean, I had a fear of water, and I was definitely not fit enough to swim at the time. So again, just circling back to that point of, should I be a pilot? I really started to dig even deeper into, can I be a pilot now? So yeah, I was faced with the Class 1 and all these other eligibility requirements that I thought I definitely wouldn't be able to, meet that standard in the state I was in at the time. So I took up triathlon.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, slow down. Back. No, let's You took up what?
Triathlon.
Triathlon. Like
yeah, so
the one where you
running.
do three things. Go on.
3 things, yeah, 3 things. So
And what are those?
So it's running, swimming, and cycling.
Raw.
So at university, I was really big on running, and I got into cycling, and I did dream about swimming, but I didn't grow up a strong swimmer. I developed a fear of water because I had a near drowning incident as well. So, it's just part of the really low days I had, talking to my older sister, and just, I cried about it. I was like, I'll never be a pilot because I can't swim. Those were some of the really low lows, I'd say. But, a couple of years later, that ended up being one of the most important things in my journey, because I didn't just learn how to be a fantastic swimmer now, or rather above average, just slightly above average. I'm not fantastic, but it also just changed my fitness level completely. And, a couple of other things happened around that, but eventually just faced the Class 1 medical, got that sorted as well. Lost a ton of weight, went from being able to swim, not being able to swim, to swimming up to 2 kilometers, which is a lot. If you're not into swimming, that's a lot. I look back on it and I think, wow, I can't believe I was scared about swimming 50 to 100 meters. Now I can do 1,000 meters without thinking about it. And it's actually interesting. I'm going to focus on that for a bit, because many people don't really think about that when it comes to becoming a pilot. They think, oh, I can swim. But when you stop and think about it, you probably can't.
So let me pause you there. Hold on there, because you talk about swimming. Well, if you've not been on the channel very long, I didn't quite go swimming, but I went somewhere where there was a lot of water, and it was an interesting flight. And I wasn't there to swim. I was there to dance. If you've never checked it out on the YouTube channel, make sure you get yourself there so that you can catch up with this series. I've always loved flying.
Hello. Come on. Well done.
And dancing, there's no denying. If only I could blend the two. I know what I'll do. I'll fly to new places, to dance with new faces, making the most of the wings a private pilot license brings.
That was a little bit gusty.
Just made a no-fly decision.
Squawk conspicuity, 3-4 shore.
A different way to our build and advance.
2-0, join downwind.
I call it fly to dance.
Full flaps.
Ooh, nice one.
Flaps come up.
Well, flight, man.
Foxtrot Sierra, welcome to shore.
We have everything in this flight, man.
Everything, bro.
Yes, if you haven't checked it out, get yourself to Future Pilot 901 on YouTube and catch up on the Fly to Dance series. If you're watching on Kick, make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss any of the streams. If you're following on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button. I know you're enjoying the content. So let's give appreciation to both Keno and Daniel for sharing their stories and inspiring. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting inspired just hearing this stuff and their stories. So yeah, make sure you hit that like button, turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the videos. Right, let's get Keno and Daniel back in, and let's finish up your story, Daniel. I want to hear the rest of yours before we come back to Keno.
All right, I'll try to make it brief as well. By the way, I love your videos, D. Absolutely love them.
Thank you.
I thought with a bit more production quality, it should be on Channel 4 or something, or like the GCI thing. It's really good.
Hey, you must be working for British Gas because you are gassing me up.
No, honestly, like love it. I hope you come up. I hope you release more episodes so I can, make it a proper series like you were doing rather. But yeah, just very quickly on sort of the swimming stuff. What I'm really trying to drive at is I took the eligibility requirements very seriously, and it just forced me to just think about who I am, what I want to do, why I'm doing this, can I do this, should I do this? And unfortunately, I didn't make it through that year into the 2 MPL. But at that point, I had about, I'd say £7,000 ready to go for flight training because I had been saving.
Decent amount that for PPL.
Yeah, for a PPL. And I thought that would be enough. Turns out it wasn't. But did another year of just applying to schemes and didn't get very far. I mean, I got to like the final stages or assessment centers, but ultimately didn't make it through. But what I did was I just carried on flying, or I started my training rather. So, against all odds, I just started flying, and I got lucky. I went solo in 8.5 hours. So that really helped for.
Wow, that is proper compression and efficiency.
Yeah. I think my instructor back then, he was really good. He definitely pushed me outside my comfort zone, and I got some really good experience in the Blackbush circuit, I'd say. Jet traffic, the HTA being active, lots of go-arounds to the dead side. So I think he was quite confident to send me on my first solo at that point in time. But I was nervous. I was really nervous, but I thought, I know what I'm doing. That's what I thought. I was confident that I've studied enough and I've done enough flying to do it. So that happened. That really helped for my Air League interview. At this point, I applied 3 years in a row for the Air League scholarships, never got a scholarship, finally got one. So I was awarded 12 hours. And for me, that was the green light. just go for it. So yeah, I started training intensively. I took loads of time off work, lots of half days. Really grateful for the manager I had at work who let me take those half days to, go to the airfield. Really helps that I could work remotely as well. Many ups and downs during the training. The lots of times I thought, like, going solo felt huge, right? And then doing the first navigation solo, that felt even bigger. And then doing the first land away felt even bigger. And doing the QXC, it just goes on and on, right? And even after the QXC, I still thought I'm not ready to become a pilot. And I mean, we'll come to this obviously, but I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've noticed as student pilots today. We've got a lot of self-doubt. And
can I ask a dumb question? Just assume that I don't know.
It can't be a dumb question.
Right? What's a QXC? You're just using all these TLAs that no one
Oh, is that part of the FBI and the KGB? Like what?
No, what is a QXC? On a serious point, because not everyone's a pilot, not everyone's been through flight training.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's got his flight examiner hat on.
Yeah. So the qualifying cross country, or the QXC, is it's probably the longest flight you're going to do in your PPL training. It really emphasizes on your airmanship, the ability to manage the aircraft, your dead reckoning navigation. So it's just a lot to do as a student pilot.
It's a 150-mile trip, and you got to land at 2 different airports. So where did you go?
I went to Tel Weston, just right next to Silverstone, if you're not familiar with the area. And then I went west towards Evesham, and then down to Kemble at the Cotswolds Airport. And then I came back into Blackbush via Swindon.
Yeah, my qualifying cross country flight was quite nice actually. From North Weald to Southend to Brighton back to North Weald, and that was but it was beautiful. For the first time I flew down the coast. Obviously, I did my land away at Shoreham first before the qualifier cross country, but just flying along the coast. That's why I kept on going back there. I kept on going back to the south. I've not flown north much. It's usually been to the south coast.
What you find is that the routes that you do are usually just determined by your flight school. And so, because when I was learning at Elstree, and that's north of London, they don't want you going to the south, because the south is like Heathrow. There's lots of chance for you to lose your license. Well, you don't have a license, so you can't lose it, but your instructor can lose theirs. So they send us north. I remember on mine, I went to Wellsbourne, which is sort of near Birmingham, and then went to Leicester, and then from Leicester back to Elstree, North London.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Everyone always remembers their trip, because you'd have done it like at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Before
you do it by yourself.
Yeah. And
did you do QXCs dual before going solo?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did it dual before. It's the school's policy that you have to do it dual before you go solo. But we didn't do as many other shorter, like, some other schools make you do like, okay, just go to that landmark over there and come back by yourself. Like, we didn't really do that. Like literally, it was just like, okay, you've done circuits, yeah, okay, cool. We're gonna do our first short cross country. You did that, great. QXC route. And then you do that and you do it well, okay, off you go by yourself. So it was a lot more accelerated.
Yeah.
But it's only accelerated if you're competent, right? Like if you don't do the small stuff well, then no one trusts you with the big stuff.
True. Yeah. So for me, it was solo landaway Southend. Sorry, dual landaway Southend, solo Southend, dual Shoreham, solo Shoreham. But Southend is kind of on the way to Shoreham anyway. So yeah, then I did the full route. I only did it on my own.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was my journey with the landaways and the cross countries, QXC.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think I'm similar to you, D. I did 2 landaways at Campbell and Toe Western, and then sort of the second leg that connects them, I did that by myself. Yeah.
Nice. So listen, I know people have some questions, particularly for Keno. We have some questions for Keno. Keno, I don't know, do you remember where you left off on your journey?
So I think it talked about becoming an instructor, paying the dues, and going up and becoming an examiner.
Yeah.
So, you know, and every stage that you do, it just gets better. You know, like you think that like your first solo is the best thing ever, and then you get a license and you find out it's even better. And then you become an instructor and you realize that actually flying, you do a flight and your bank balance comes back slightly more positive than it was before, and that just blows your mind, you know. And then becoming an examiner, it's very interesting. You know, you really get deep knowledge. Your judgment is like much more honed, and also there's a lot of responsibility. And you've got to ask yourself, you know, would I put my wife or my son in a plane with this person? You know, and that's the decision you're making when you sign someone off as competent. You know, so there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And then then you think that that's as good as it gets, and you do a type rating, and it's even better. You know, there's a journey.
Wow, amazing! I'm looking forward to getting to that place and discovering all these unlocking. It's kind of like a video game, isn't it? Unlocking the ratings and then unlocking the license and unlocking the experiences. So I guess that's why we want to keep on playing that game. We're all loving it so much.
Yeah,
amazing. Right, let's have a look. All right, I want to go into before I go into that, actually, Daniel, so you did your skills test recently. What was it like, just kind of getting over the line after all these challenges, you know, sometimes doubting yourself and then, you know, trying for these scholarships, getting rejection, and then finally, you know, kind of getting the green light to really go for it. And now you've done your QXC. What was that last push like for you?
Yeah, so that last push, I really wanted to get my license done before the end of last year. And I definitely felt the pressure. And I'd say that probably didn't help very much when I look back on it. But my flight school was really supportive. They had lots of availability, aircraft availability to be specific. I think the hardest thing about it was less about the flying for me. It was more about juggling it with all the other things in my life. So at this point, I had run out of annual leave at work. I was also just burning through cash because I ended up doing my PPL in 55 hours. So I went way over budget personally. And I thought, I need to get this done. So
if just to be clear though, 55 hours is actually it's pretty good. It's actually about average.
Yeah.
You know, so like the average PPL it's actually a bit better than average, to be honest. The average PPL in the UK is probably doing it between 55 and 80 hours. That's actually the sort of the average, because people have lives and they've got things that are going on. Yes, if you were full-time and competent and that's all you did and you basically flew every single day, you might do it in 45 to 50 hours. But actually 55 is actually realistic. It's actually not, it's not over. I know a lot of people who wish they did it in 55.
Really?
I wouldn't say who they were, but definitely I had a student who they know who they are, and they took probably in the region of like 120 hours to finish. So, you know, the reality is it takes everyone a different amount of time, and actually 55 hours is pretty good.
Yeah, I think I did 57, and that's because I had gaps. So I did a landaway at Southend, then I had a break for like 6 months. Then I had to do another dual landaway first before I could go solo. Then I had a month break. Then I had to do another landaway at Southend dual before I could go solo. Because apparently, the day before I was supposed to do my solo landaway to Southend, one of the students approached the wrong runway. So instead of runway 23, they were the other side. So they were like, no, we need more recency. We need, you know, for them to be kind of fresh off a duel. So that's why I had to do like a third duel before I could go dual solo land away at Southend. So I ended up burning a few hours. Otherwise, I'd been closer to 55. But like you're saying, Keno, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
I mean, the fact that you two have both basically finished in about that amount of time lets you know that that's actually about normal. It's actually about average. And actually, if you talk to most people, you'll find out that that's actually, you know, like, look, I'm a nerd, right? And so like, I read the mark scheme, and then I work backwards from the mark scheme to work out how I can achieve that in the. You know, I've read all the regulations, front to back to front, literally. And the truth is, if you want to finish in minimum hours, you have to spend more than like twice minimum, like on flight sim, on armchair flying. Like there is a way to train that finishes in minimum, and it actually requires like way more effort than what most people are prepared to put in.
Yeah,
you know. But I finished like most of my training in minimum hours, and it's doable, but you have to work really hard. And the reality is, most people either cannot or will not.
So it sounds,
what you find is,
it sounds like you have the choice, isn't it? More effort or more money? Because if you want to spend less money, you got to up the effort.
Yeah.
And if you lower the effort, you're going to have to spend more money in the lessons with the instructor with the engine running.
Yeah. I was definitely I was up against weather personally, because I passed my PPL sort of like first week of December. My QXC was sometime in mid-October, so I had all these bits in between where I was just fighting weather. But I actually, what I ended up doing in that time was doing more complex navigation with one of my instructors. So did lots of Class D transits in that time, because I thought there's not much I can do between the QXC and the skills test, and we can do a mock test, but I thought it's better to do that sort of when I'm closer to actually doing the skills test. So, and I thought, my navigation needs a bit of work anyway, because that was my weakest area during my training, I'd say. So going sort of to the south, because I mainly did westerly navigations. So starting to go to the south, that really helped my training. I say my quality of training went up when I started doing that, but obviously that meant extra hours for me.
Yeah, it's a great achievement, man. Go on, Keno.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a case that you know, the quality is definitely better than just trying to get it down to the minimums. You know, definitely.
So, Keno, whilst we're here, before we go into more of like a you know, talking about flight instructing and students and maybe answering some of the questions that come through the chat and also some of the FAQs that I come up against. What's your opinion on the lowering of the requirement? So it's now 40 hours requirement. Any thoughts on that, and you know, what student pilots could be thinking about, or what even flight instructors are thinking about with that? Because one of the questions that's come up is, you know, because flight instructors have to sign students off, right? So does it make much of a difference, do you think, to how we're going to be approaching PPL training, or what's your thoughts on it?
I think that, first of all, it's a good thing that they've done it. What you must realize is that you can get a microlight license in 25 hours. Right, and actually, if you have a microlight license, it doesn't let you go more than 10 miles away from the airport. You can get that in 16 hours. So, like, there's actually this whole idea that 45 is a lot is not really true. You know, I've got one of my students. You know, he did the LAPL first. You know, and he got his LAPL in like just over 30 hours. You know, which is what the legal minimum was, and a LAPL is basically the same as a PPL. So it's definitely possible to do it in less. And so for those students who are capable of doing it in less, who will work very hard and are very good, it's actually better for them, you know, because the most expensive bit is flying with someone next to you. So I think it's actually a good thing from that point of view. And it just actually brings it in line with ICAO. So the UK sort of went a bit belt and braces and always had this 45-hour requirement. But the FAA, it's been 40 hours since the beginning of time, and they basically invented flying. So it's only just now sort of going in alignment. But at the end of the day, most people are still probably going to finish in the same time that they do now.
I hear that. I hear that. Right. Speaking of PPL training, if you've never caught up on the PPL training videos that I've posted on the Future Pilot 901 YouTube page, particularly if you're going through the training yourself, it may be useful to you. Obviously, speak to your flight instructor. It's not instruction, but it's, you know, educational entertainment is what I'll call it. So here it is.
Nice takeoff.
That's a screw. I was waiting for that because everyone does it.
I'm gonna make sure that you can do it. And you can do it, I know.
Can you get to the height of a double-decker bus?
How about this height?
Smoothly throttle to idle. Smoothly raise the nose.
This is floating. It's float.
Yes, man. Good food after hard days of flying, bro.
It's needed, man. Got London.
I'm worn out.
Yes. 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 So, Keno, I filmed, kind of without knowing, your first appearance on the channel was your 1,000th hour flight. Do you remember that day?
I do indeed. It was a great day with rubbish weather.
Yeah. It was. I literally, because we were in the same. Well, we are in the same WhatsApp group. Saw the message, I think, right that morning, and it was just like, "Oh, do you want a backseat IFR flight?" I was like, "Yes, let's go, let's go." And I had to like dust myself off early morning and get myself to Elstree. And do you know what? What do you make of the video? Because we've never really talked about it. So I came to the flight, filmed it, went away, kind of took a couple of years to edit it, and then sent you a link saying, "Hey, here's that video." What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think I think it kind of shows what some training is really like, and I think it also shows a little bit of my style as an instructor, which is not to everyone's taste, right? No, I'm not no instructor is to everyone's taste, But what I think it shows is like, so for example, like the way like I interact with Yufei is very honest. It's very very back and forth. So I tend to like the student to think for themselves. So I'll go, so what do you think about that? And he'll be like, yeah, I was behind the aircraft. It's like, yeah, you were very behind the aircraft, So what can we do about it next time, or how could we? What could you have done differently, and so forth. I think the more you engage the student in because ultimately you're trying to train a future captain, especially when you get to IFR stuff. You're giving someone a license that they could use to kill themselves and their families. So they really have to become more self-critical and more self-thinking. And I thought it was quite a good video. Obviously, we started off and then we had a fuel leak, which was not a good way to start a day. And then we got a different plane, which is a better plane. And and as you saw, it was IFR the whole way through.
Yeah, but brilliant flight. Brilliant flight. I definitely enjoyed it, and not so much the recovering from unusual attitudes part, but other than that, I quite enjoyed it. And also, I did all of that on a Samsung S9, which I was quite surprised by. One broken phone managed to do to edit all of that together, so I was quite happy with the outcome. All right, so let's talk flight instruction. Let's talk student pilot. Maybe let's start from the flight instructor point of view. From your perspective and as an experienced flight instructor and now flight examiner, what makes a really good flight instructor. And when student pilots go out there, particularly I find, because I support PPL students, usually our scholars with the Honorable Company of Air Pilots, we call it buddying, where we kind of support them through as previous scholars, but also get a lot of people who are starting off in their journey contact me, ask questions. And I find that in a way, when you're doing PPL, your flight instructor is God. And a lot of the times you don't know what you don't know. You're like, well, my instructor's always made me do that. Like, we always go out to the, flying area and then do the exercise and then fly back, and they do the takeoff and landing up until the point that I did circuits. And as a previous like PPL, I hear that and I go, like, really, you should have been practicing takeoff and landing like before you got to
from
circuits.
day one.
Right. So from your point of view, what makes a good instructor, for a PPL student to find?
I think being a younger flight instructor, you remember more recently what it was like to be a student, and that makes a big difference because you know all the good and bad instructors that you had, and you want to be like you basically want to become the flight instructor that you wish you had, right? So, for example, I think what makes a good flight instructor is they need to be honest with you. You never want a flight instructor that just kind of gasses you up. If you've never heard a flight instructor tell you that you did something badly, then that's actually red flags, because we all make mistakes, and they should be flagging it to you early. Because the problem is, if you just ingrain these behaviors, it's actually negative training. So what actually happens is you're never going to meet the standard, but you find out really late that you don't meet the standard, and then we have to untrain all the rubbish you learned to then learn it properly. And that's about. I think an honest relationship is quite important. I think it's have to be serious. Have to be good.
Oh, I'm losing your audio a little bit. Your audio is going in and out a little bit.
So I think you can have a good banterous relationship with your instructor as well. Where you can have jokes, and I think instructors that set you homework, and things like that, because most of the learning doesn't actually happen in the cockpit. Actually, most of the learning happens actually in the cafe or meeting other people or just having chats and sharing what you learned. It doesn't actually happen in the cockpit. So I would say instructors that are not transactional, you usually get the better longer term value out of those instructors. And it's also a lot more enjoyable as well.
Interesting. Yeah. No, definitely resonate with that. So let's flip it on its head then. What would you say makes a good student? How should they prepare? How should they show up? Where an instructor then, that student comes through the door and you're happy to see them. It's not like, oh, them again kind of thing. What makes a good student?
Well, a good student is the same thing that makes a good student in school, to be honest. Like they've done the work before they get there, because again, like most of the learning happens outside the cockpit. So you should have read about what you're going to do before we get here. So that way, when you talk with a student who's actually prepared, the conversation you have is so different. It's so interesting. It's deeper, and actually you both learn, right? It's like a mentored relationship. Whereas when you come up to a student who literally doesn't even know what lesson we're supposed to be doing today, it's just a long day, and not that much gets done. And the thing is, because you're a professional, you always give them your best, but your best with someone who's prepared is like 3x the value of your best with someone who's not. So I say just being prepared, being early, 5 minutes early is late. Like if you actually look at how pilots are when you get to commercial level, I know not everyone wants to go commercial, but if you look at how pilots are when you go commercial, everyone's done the pre-reading of the flight plan and stuff at home, right? And they still get to the airport an hour early to brief, to plan, to fuel, to do all the admin. And then they go and they depart on time, and everything works really smoothly. So you have to you're trained to become a future captain like that. So you have to embody those attitudes even from this stage. So you got to turn up like an hour before your flight. You have to have already read the study materials, and you've got to understand like the standard and the responsibility, because the standard is like up here, right? And this in the UK, we literally have standards documents that tell you what the standard is. So if you haven't read the standard document, you have no idea of knowing what the standard really is. The standard's always up here. It never drops. So it's about you have to raise your level to be above the standard, you know. Yeah.
Daniel, would you say that you were a good student? How did you show up to flight lessons?
I like to think I'm a good student, but I also know that I'm probably not. It really depends on the lesson. I had many different instructors. I had about 8 to 9 different instructors.
Yikes.
I think they generally liked working with me. I liked some more than others. And not that I hated any of them, but the ones I liked were the ones that gave me the toughest time. And those are the ones I stuck with towards the end.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Maybe it's just the way I am, but I know if I'm going to be better at something, I need to be put through a tough time. It's been like that for me throughout education as well. I'm not going to act like I was a bright student. I got very good grades in the end, but I wasn't the best student. But you'd always meet that teacher who actually cares about you doing well, and that's usually enough to make me just wake up inside. But then the teachers that do care are the ones who are really strict. That's what I find. So you'd have some instructors who would just treat it as, in my case, as an observation flight, just to see what I can do. As an example, I think the first hour of every flight I had with a new instructor was like a getting to know me type of flight. But there were some instructors who just straight into it, just butchered me alive, just ripped into me. It's like, where your after landing checks? Where's your freedom check? Have you thought about your next frequency change? You know, and I'd say I start to fly with instructors like that. I'd say, actually, no, my first instructor who sent me solo was like that, but I had that gap in between where I hit the solo standard, I did the consolidation, and I just didn't really feel like I was moving forward. But that's because the instructor availability went down at that time. But when all the instructors started coming back, the retired captains and stuff, flew with them, and they are ripping into me. And that's when I figured out very quickly that I probably have a lot to learn, or I'm not doing as well as I can be as a student. But I was prepared when I came to lessons. I'd read the flight training manual, I'd watched videos, I thought about it. But I'd almost say that I always benefit more from speaking to an instructor. And like to Kenna's point about having that sort of mentor-mentee relationship, that's when I really learned something, right? And that happened after being butchered in the air and then coming on the ground, or coming very early in the morning to the flight school to have a cup of tea with the instructor and like just have a sit-down chat and talk to them about how I'm feeling. And I don't know, I like to think that I'm generally good when it comes to working with people, and I don't shy away from telling people how I feel. So very quickly, I just said to the instructor, I like working with you because you make me feel like I'm not good enough. But here's the thing, that's what it's doing to me. I want to be better. How can we be better? And that's how I approached it. So I think, am I a good student? I'd say, now that I think about it, I'd say yes, because I was always very honest. Same level of honesty I got is what I gave back. And if they weren't being honest with me, I'd be honest with them. And that really helped me massively. So flying with different instructors as well, I got lots of feedback throughout my training. So different varied feedback that I'd say has probably made me a good learning pilot.
What I really love about what you've just said is, from my perspective, you're showing leadership there. You know, you're saying, hey, like, you want to talk about it. You want to say, hey, I'll be honest, I don't feel like I'm good enough. What can I do? And you're ready to receive, you know. But sometimes I think, you know, it's easy in some cases to be passive about that and to just maybe feel bad, but never really coming forward and asking that question. And very much I found that it's important for me to take my training into my own hands. The instructor's the instructor, but it's my training. I need to find out what I need to know, like what I need to know to be on top of it, to be ahead of it. and to take charge of my own development, really, under the instruction of the flight instructor. So I really love that. I feel like it's a leadership element there. Kenna, what would you say about that? And what would you say about is there benefit in flying with different instructors? Could it be too much? Is it useful from your experience?
I think that every instructor has got like strengths and weaknesses, right? And I think that those instructors who admit that they have weaknesses are probably among the best ones, right? And flying with different instructors, you just learn different ways of doing things, and you can actually work out what works for you, which I think can work quite well. But I think what happens is if you find a good instructor that you vibe really well with and works as hard as you want to work, you will make way quicker progress. So for example, I found this one instructor, shout out David Smith, absolute legend. I started flying with him and I smashed through my training. I mean, I did my night rating in like 2 nights. I did like my instrument very quick, finished at 15.1 hours. I did my multi-engine with him. I was like, bam, 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 bam. Because Dave was like such a chill guy, very, very like it was just like going like on a day with your mate. And we would just chat and learn so much. And we'd fly because we turned up early all the time. We'd also have time like to be in a cafe, and we just learned a lot, And actually, it was also like a bit of reverse mentorship as well, because I was better at things like, let's say, admin and finance and stuff like that than he was. So we were both learning from each other. We both enjoyed each other's company, and we both really learned a lot from that. So once I found him, I just like stick with this guy, bam, 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 get through really quickly. And it was very, very cost effective. Whereas, I've flown with a bunch of different instructors, and, I remember I flew with one instructor, and when I landed, I was just like, never again. I felt like this guy's supposed to be teaching me, right? And he's should be teaching me like level turns, and he's holding altitude plus or minus 120 feet, which is outside the standard, by the way, right? And then he gives it to me, and I'm holding it plus or minus like 10. And I'm like, you're supposed to be teaching me. I should be teaching you. I need somebody who can actually like match me. Who actually came prepared to teach someone who's capable. And I did one flight with him. I won't say who he is because it'll embarrass him. But I don't think he even knows who he is. But other students know who he is. He just wasn't very good. And after that, I flew with others, and it really made a big difference to fly with people who match your energy.
Yeah,
I hear that. That's a great point. So whilst we're still on that topic, and I'm going to slowly start to bring in some questions from the chat. What about studying? Yeah. That's another question that comes up quite a bit. How should I study? And so, for example, there's PPL where they're starting off, or there's ATPLs as well. I think I saw a question earlier about ATPL. What are some study tips that you can share with people that could help them?
I would say that there's 2 approaches. For PPL, the knowledge just needs to get into your head. You have to find the way that is the most effective for you. So, for example, I take in content really well by video. So I watch a lot of videos, and so lots of videos, and then I like top up with some reading and like lots of discussions back and forth, and I learn a lot that way. So that's what I did. I don't recommend that for everyone, but it worked for me, right? Whereas if you're more like into books or more into online resources, just do what works for you and get through. I would say, every time you have a flight that gets canceled due to weather, which is like half of them in winter, right? That time is already time slotted for you. So you should be studying in that time, and basically study more in winter, fly more in summer, right? And don't delay getting your theory done, because it ultimately makes your flying training slower and more expensive. So that's what I would say. When it gets to ATPLs, though, I mean, that is a different beast. And actually, there is no shortcut. There is no nice way. It's just a slog. If you do it full time, flat out, it will take you 6 months. If you have no life whatsoever, if you have a full-time job and you're studying and you do basically have no life other than working and studying, it will take you like 2 years. So that's what it takes. So every little bit of extra life you want to have, 2 years becomes 3, becomes 4, becomes 5. And at some point, you just have to say, I'm going to have no life for 2 years, and this is going to get done, and then I'm going to get my life back. But until you are as like blunt as that and as disciplined as that, and you have to say no a lot, the exam process is just going to drag on. You know, that's just the reality of ATPLs.
Very great points there. So that answers a question. Is it Assad that answers your question about ATPL theory? And what about in terms of getting the information, actually processing the information, getting it into your heads? Is there, any tips that you would say are quite useful and effective?
Yeah, you gotta understand that like we have like 3 or 4 different ways of learning. You know, people are visual, auditory, so listening, or kinesthetic, like touching, doing, etc. And if you like watch videos, you'll take in the content visually, you'll also hear it, and then you've got to take notes. Taking notes then makes it kinesthetic and also visual. And the idea is if it goes in through 3 or 4 pathways, it has a better time of sticking. But on top of all of that, there is no secret. It's just repetition. You know, like you are forgetting everything that you learn at a certain rate, right? So you need to be learning at a faster rate than you're forgetting. So if you keep learning, and before you forget, you have to go repeat. So you like learn, repeat. You just keep it so that you keep improving, you know? And you don't want the gap between repeats to be too long. Otherwise you basically have forgotten it all.
Great.
And you have to do question banks. Like you're not going to pass UK ATPL exams or EASA ATPL exams without the question bank. You got to try and do your best to study, but then you got to do the question banks, and you got to like hit the banks until you're scoring into the 90s and the percentages. You know, if you try and take your test when you're doing about 70, 80%, you're going to fail. You need to be scoring in like towards 90%.
Yeah, I use that as a measure of knowing when I was ready for exams. If I'm like scoring 90 to 100% consistently over like, multiple exams, then I was like, okay, cool, maybe I'm ready for this one now. So I like that point. Daniel's just having some internet issues. I guess it is going around, but he dropped in the chat. What's the biggest misconception about getting a job as a pilot?
Okay. Everyone thinks it's really, really easy, and everyone thinks the jobs are available all the time.
Check. Are we still good? Are we still good? Is that me? Mic check. Have we lost him? Did we lose him? I think we might have lost Keno. Yo, the internet today is just it's wild. The internet today is wild. We are losing people left, right, and center, dropping off like flies. Yeah, Keno, you've frozen, so might want to recycle. Daniel, you there? I can't see your video. I think I could hear your audio, but I can't see your video. Okay. Here we go.
Hello.
Check. Yeah, I can't see you. Your screen is completely dark, but I can hear you.
I can see you and I can see me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe you need to. Yeah, it's not showing up on the stream. Your video is not showing up on the stream. I can see that. I can see. I can see it when you turn your camera off and it's got your initial. But yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the information that you are getting. I hope you are enjoying the information that you're getting. We've got a few more minutes, probably another 15 minutes of picking Keno's brain and asking him some of the questions. I've got the questions in the chat, so I'm just systematically working my way through them and getting them across to Keno to see see what he's saying. About that. Here we go.
Does
Daniel's
that work
back.
better? Maybe.
Yeah. Now your video is back.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So when Keno comes back, we're going to be talking about the misconception that people have about getting a job as a pilot, because I want to hear that from him. Let's see. 1 second. I've got somebody to ban. Thank you to the AI mod for deleting nonsensical comments. And you are now banned. So goodbye on the Kick chat. All right. Shout out to Kiki. We'll leave some gems for you, hopefully, for you to catch up. I'll definitely pick up any questions you left. We're on the home stretch. Hopefully Keno gets to join back in very shortly. Now let's see. Inspired throughout says, such an inspiration, Danny. Such an inspiration. Thank you for that. Yeah, man, you're getting a lot of love out here.
That's so kind. Thank you.
Yeah, getting a lot of love
Thank
out
you guys.
here. Yeah, now I'm getting jealous. I might need to get rid of you still. Might need to. You may not be welcome on the channel anymore. Getting way too much. Yeah, okay. Keno's internet is playing up. Let's just see. Keep going anyway, because we've got the next 12 minutes or so. If Keno can rejoin us, then great. If not, we'll see what we can do about that in future to see if we can complete the conversation. Only a couple of questions left here, but I had some questions for Keno as well. Some questions that came up earlier in the week. Okay, he's going to be back soon. All right, let's have a short, brief commercial break before we bring Keno back into the conversation. Short, brief commercial break. Check this out. Check this out. I've always loved flying.
Hello. Radar. Come on. Well done.
And dancing, there's no denying. If only I could blend the two. I know what I'll do. I'll fly to new places, to dance with new faces. Making the most of the wings a private pilot license brings.
That was a little bit gusty.
Just made a no-fly decision.
Sport conspicuity, 3-course shore.
A different way to our build and advance.
2-0, join downwind.
I call it fly to dance.
4 flaps.
Ooh, nice one.
Flaps come up. Whoa, flight, man.
Foxtrot Sierra, welcome to shore.
We have everything in this flight, man.
Everything, bro.
Yes, we are back on track. So, Keno, we're picking your brains. Tell us, what are the misconceptions about getting a job as a pilot?
Yeah, I think everyone thinks that the jobs are easy to get and they can get it all the time and etc. But the truth is, our industry is incredibly seasonal. So what that really means is that most people fly. Like, there's a lot of flying that happens in the summer months, and the winter months is generally quieter. And in the quieter winter months, that's when most recruitment happens, right? So the recruitment window is mostly from September till about like the mid of February. The idea being, if you're recruited in that window, you can be trained, type rated, trained, etc., ready to make money for the airline in the peak summer season. So what that really means is that if you don't have a job by February, you're probably going to sit on the bench for another year, and that's the reality. So when it comes to your flight training, you have to plan to finish before the recruitment window begins. Otherwise, there's no point February is like the worst time to finish your flight training.
Very useful tip there. Very, very useful to know that. Let's have a look. There's some more questions in the chat. What's the financial reality of a flight instructor salary in the UK?
Okay, so the flight instructor pay really depends on who you work for, right? So if you work for a smaller flight school, the reality is you might be paid £20 an hour, right? And that's £20 an hour whilst the engine is running. You're not paid for time where you're like doing pre-flight briefs or getting the aircraft refueled or any of that sort of stuff. So your effective real earning is actually probably more like £10 an hour. So for every 2-hour slot, you're actually only really flying for an hour of it, and you're only really paid for 1 hour for every 2 hours you actually work. So that's not great. But as you advance, the pay does get better, so that's the thing. Obviously, if you fly for one of the bigger flight schools, the more, like, let's say, integrated schools like Leading Edge or Skyborne or someone like that, instructor earnings can be like in excess of 65 grand a year. So it's perfectly possible to do everything in between.
Interesting. Good to know. How can we build hours cost effectively?
So I would say one of the best things to do is have a look at cost sharing, right? So flying with your friends and family to a place, like you fly for lunch, and split the costs, and what that ends up meaning is that if you're renting an aircraft for, I'll just use nice rounder numbers, £150 an hour, and you split it 3 ways, your effective cost is £50 an hour, but it's £50 an hour to everyone on the aircraft. So your family can go to France for lunch and back, right? And you might all pay like £100 each or £120 each or something like that, which is a pretty amazing experience for like a nice day trip. So that's an effective way of hour building. Other ways, if you are like maintain good relationship with the flight school, aircraft always have to go to maintenance, right? And somebody needs to take the aircraft to maintenance and bring it back. So ferrying aircraft to and from maintenance is a very effective way to get either free or heavily discounted flight training, flight hours building, or actually looking at flying in a different country. So for example, it's quite cost effective to go to, let's say, America or South Africa or somewhere like that and just build a bunch of hours. You get to fly in a different country, incredible experience. And in some cases, the cost per hour can be like up to 40 to 50% lower.
And so the question earlier in the week came up: should someone hour build abroad, or should they hour build in the UK?
The answer is it doesn't actually really matter. So I did pretty much all of my hour building in the UK, and my effective cost of hour building was about £40 to £50 an hour, because 3 of us were always flying to places and having lunch, right? So where someone could go to America, but they'd fly all by themselves. So even though it is 40% cheaper or 30% cheaper, it's still not as cheap as a third of the price, because I flew 3 ways. So obviously, if you fly to America and you also share the costs in America, it's like even cheaper, right? But you have to be a lot more organized, a lot more diligent, and basically you don't have to go abroad to hour building.
Brilliant. Yeah, so cost sharing is really, and I find that it makes the hour building more enjoyable. I think you probably have to work a little bit harder to maintain your, let's say, your hour building, what can I call it? Strategy, your hour building goals. Because when you're flying with people, you're trying to give them a good experience, but at the same time, you kind of want to manage, practicing what you're trying to practice. So that's probably a tiny bit harder, but it makes it easier in terms of cost if you're cost sharing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, don't forget, like, this is something that people don't really understand, but like, community is everything. You know, like absolutely everything, and you build your community one conversation at a time, one flight at a time. You know, and it's just way more enjoyable, and it's you know, I remember when I was doing my hour building, I saved £15,000 by cost sharing, right? And you know, but those were also like the best trips. You know, we flew to Jersey, we flew to Spain, we flew to, you know, the Netherlands. You know, we flew to Scotland. You know, we had lots and lots of fun, and saved a lot of money. So I would say, definitely consider cost sharing, and more importantly, just building your community. Because what you don't realize is that like your colleague today is probably your boss tomorrow.
Fair point. Fair point. Daniel, you're going to be a good boss to me. I hope you're.
I think it's the other way around.
I hope you're not going to be skimping on my pay. Okay.
Oh no, I think it's the other way around, mate. No, but, sorry, Ken, I found that really interesting. How do you, like, how does that work? Like number wise, £40 an hour for flying. How does that actually work?
Okay, so two things. One, like inflation is real. So obviously, I learned to fly a while ago, right?
Yeah.
I could rent aircraft for £150 an hour, and now it's more like 200. But the principle is still the same. So right now, my effective cost would have probably been like £66 an hour, right? And the way you do that is you just go for a flight with your friends, because it turns out like not everyone is actually interested in flying or logging hours. You have lots of friends who are not pilots that just like to go on adventures. You know, I flew with everybody in my office. I flew with everybody in my church. I flew with everybody who even had the vaguest interest in airplanes. I flew with my girlfriend, now wife. I flew with everybody, and we all split the costs. And we all actually, the girlfriend didn't split the costs, but everyone else did.
Aha! Did you guys get that reference? Who knows that reference? Does anybody know that reference?
No.
Oh man, it's coming to America.
No comment. Yes.
Okay, I see what you mean now. Can I? Yeah.
Yeah, and I've
makes a big difference.
Similar.
It does.
I've done something similar, and it really has helped. I've flown with a bunch of people, and but what I did do was kind of like open it up a little bit for them to contribute whatever they could, so that could give like a bit of leeway to maybe aspiring pilots who wanted to have an experience but didn't have as much money and all that kind of stuff. But it definitely has helped to keep the cost down a little bit. Next question. Kenna, what did your days look like during type rating? If you had to do it again, what would you change?
Okay, so in normal type rating, you don't normally have another job, right? You're just full time, and it probably takes you like 2 to 3 months. You study like on iPads for like all the systems knowledge and all that kind of stuff, and then you do your thing, and then you go to the sims, fixed base sims, and then motion sims, and that's like the arc of your training and whatever. But if you have like another job, you don't have like 2 to 3 months of just free time to just like chill. So what actually happened is I had to study really intensely in the evenings, all the theory knowledge, and then all my like flight training was compressed into 3 weeks. So you went from 0 through to all the ground school, all the exams, all the sims, all the everything in 3 weeks. And that means you have to be really, really on it. Like I had to go to type rating school already basically type rated. I had to have read everything. I took some time in some like fixed base sims. I did lots of stuff on X-Plane. Shout out to the Zebo mod. You know, that is like the most accurate 737 model on X-Plane, and on Flight Sim, especially that it's free. And you just practice. So by the time that you got there, you passed every sim first time, you know, and passing every sim first time means you finish in minimum hours, minimum cost, but it kind of maximizes your stress. So for example, because I only had 3 weeks, I took every sim slot that was available, right? So for example, rather than having like lots of nice slots where your slots are the same time every day or every other day, and there's gaps to study and consolidate, I had like back to back. And I remember I had my final sim finished at like, I think midnight, and my exam started at 6 in the morning, you know, and that's like ridiculous, but that's kind of what's required if you want to pass in 3 weeks, you know, like the idea of like work-life balance doesn't exist. I literally lived and breathed 737, and I was always at the typewriting school. So even when I wasn't in the sim, I was backseating sims. I was studying. I was on my own flight sim. I was doing my flows. I was just bam, 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 live, breathe, ingest it all. And that was it. 3 weeks later. Well, so like, let's say like 3 weeks of like studying in the evenings and mornings, and then 3 weeks of just like hardcore, intense, like in the sim. And then that was it. 737 qualified.
Nice. Crazy stuff. So that's waiting in the future. Yikes. I better get ready. Okay, I'm aware of time. I'm going to tell you the questions that are left. And then you can kind of pick kind of how you want to go about them. So I've got 3 questions. The question about balancing life, personal life, with becoming a pilot has come up a couple of times, particularly with you being, I saw your wedding band, so you're married, unless you're just wearing that as a fashion statement.
My wife would definitely not be happy if it was a fashion statement.
So you're married. Yeah, what's it like balancing that? There's another question. How do you get over imposter syndrome as a pilot, which has come up a couple of times as well? And then the last question about representation. How do you feel about representation in the pilot profession? So how you can chop those up however you want to. You tell me what you want to do.
Okay, so it was work-life balance, representation, and what's the third one?
Imposter syndrome.
Okay, so I'll do imposter syndrome first. Imposter syndrome is real. It happens, right? But it's actually perfectly normal. It actually means that you're someone who's competent because you are not overconfident. You have an understanding of some of your weaknesses and stuff like that. But you need to get over it. You know, like your dream that you're trying to achieve is bigger than your imposter syndrome that you feel. So you actually have to take the step, the leap of faith. And what happens is by repetition, the imposter syndrome fades. You know, literally, you just do it over and over and over again. And at some point, it actually just becomes part of who you are. I think the bit I've loved the most about like the aviation journey is actually the person you become on the way to becoming a pilot. You know, so you become a lot more like creative problem solver, a lot more confident, a lot more creative, community building, a bit of a leader. Like that happens on your journey, but you don't start there. You know, so the first time you become a leader or a creative problem solver, it's new, it's foreign, but then you grow into that role over time. And so it's okay to feel like that, but just know that like with repetition, it goes away. The second one about how do you have work-life balance? The truth is, it doesn't exist. I unfortunately, like work-life balance only exists if you're rich, right? And you have to be honest. If you don't have like 200 grand in the bank, disposable, work-life balance doesn't exist for you, right? You can choose to have life, or and not achieve your goals, or you can choose to like achieve your goals, or you can choose to take like 20 years to achieve your goals, right? And it gets harder because inflation means that flying keeps getting more and more expensive, and your dream keeps going further and further away from you. So at some point, I'm more in favor of just being honest, right? If your flight training is going to cost you 60 grand, you know, that's 6 grand a year for 10 years, or that's 60 grand in 1 year, and everything in between. And you can just pick how much work life you want to balance, and then you can decide how long your training is going to take. And I think that's just a reality that you have to be honest with yourself about. You know, you can't do everything, and you definitely cannot have it all at the same time unless you're rich already. So that should hopefully answer your question for yourself, to just realize it's up to you to decide how much work-life balance you have. But I do things that I enjoy. I don't do a job I hate. I do a job I enjoy with engineering. I also do flying, which I love, and I also do my family, which I love. And so it's really like just work-life integration more than work-life balance. So sometimes work has to suffer for life. You know, I've got a kid. If he's ill, you're not going to be focused on work that week, you know. But likewise, if I've got an exam, you know, I'm probably not going to be the best. If I've got my check ride coming up, I'm not going to be the best dad that week, right? And then you just make up for it at some later time. That's just the reality of our industry. And then the final one was how do I feel about representation? It is fundamentally important, you know, like for a lot of people, you just cannot really be what you can't see, you know, and so it's quite important to have people that you can look up to in the industry, you know, and so, you know, these people already exist. It's just they're not particularly visible, you know, but because there's a lot of really good groups out there at the moment. So, for example, Fantasy Wings, which is like going out there and like showing a lot of like representation, helping people with the skills and attitudes to become pilots. You've also got things like Elevate Her, you know, which is really showcasing a lot of like the female talent that there is out there. You know, there's a lot of female pilots. People just don't see them. But if you follow Elevate Her on Instagram, for example, you begin to see that actually women in the cockpit is not that unnormal. There actually are lots of women out there. There's captains of big heavy metal, as well as little things, and instructors like Pre. You know, there's loads of people out there. And the more you see, the more you realize that it can be done, right? And I think as those of us who've become instructors and become examiners and, you know, and achieve our dreams, it's quite important that we extend the ladder down to other people to make their journeys into the flight deck a bit easier than ours were. You know, so I think you have a responsibility if you're someone who is visible.
I love it. And yeah, many of those organizations have been represented right here on Future Pilot 901 this whole week. We had Pre here, we had Lily, who's quite involved with Elevate Her on yesterday as well. Keno, you're involved with Fantasy Wings quite a bit as well. So yeah, and of course, the Honorable Company of Air Pilots, Air League with Daniel. So yeah, all those organizations have been represented here. So definitely a huge, big advice would be plug yourself in. If there is one regret that I have, it's that I didn't put myself in the aviation community earlier. I don't really usually do regrets, but if I did have regrets, that would be the one thing. Because I think just being in the environment, seeing those people, being able to ask questions and, oh, okay, that's possible. I didn't even think of cost sharing.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Now I can factor that in, you know? So as you said, Keno, people who have gone ahead, extending the ladder so that we can have a bit of an easier time. And as we climb up, we extend the ladder as well. So yeah, it's each one teach one. And before you know it, we're all going to make an incredible amount of progress. Anything you want to say to conclude, Keno?
Yeah, like it's just community is absolutely everything. I can't say that enough. And it's very hard to make that tangible without just waffling for a long time. I'll just give you a quick example. We had like a group called Flyouts from London, right? And we would go for drinks or a pizza or something like that once a month and then plan a flight to somewhere else, right? And that group is still together now. Like we've been together like 10 plus years and we're still going. No, like 8 plus years and we're still going, right? And what happens is that in your community, everybody's good at something. So I'm that regulations nerd who's always like reading and being like, hey guys, you know, the regulations changing on this, you know, and then, you know, like we'd always have someone else in the group, like let's say Fabio, who's a great networker, right? Or, you know, and he'd be like, hey, I've got this friend who's got an aircraft for this price, which is way less than what you were paying before. I can make an introduction for you. And you'd have someone else who is like, you know, and between you all have skills that you contribute. And so everybody rises, you know? Whereas if you just try to do it all by yourself, what you find is if you might not be the networker, you might not be the regulations guy, you might not be the flight instructor. And so you end up having this really transactional relationship where you end up either being scammed, overpaid, like being really inefficient. And like, for example, even just by being part of a community, there's always that one person who always knows all the deadlines for all the scholarships, right? And they're the ones who are always posting it in the group chat that just reminds everyone to be like, hey, apply. You know, so I think that's what I would say. Like community is absolutely everything, but a community is give and take. You know, so if you're someone who just keeps take, and you never give, what you will find is that you will just not be invited anymore.
Yeah.
Or you'll think you're in the group chat, but the real group chat's actually over here.
Wise words. Wise words. Yeah, listen, Keno, it's always a pleasure to chat to you, man. I'm always learning something new from you. I appreciate your time. Daniel, I'm going to keep you for a little bit to finish out the show with me. But yeah, Keno, I appreciate you, man. I can't say that enough. So thank you very much for your contribution today. Thank you for your wisdom. And yeah, I hope people out there benefited.
Thanks, Steve. Don't forget to check.
Go on, tell us, and where should people find you as well?
Mostly on Instagram. I think that's where I'm mostly contactable. So Keno Mario Guy, or the same on LinkedIn. But I check my LinkedIn maybe once a month.
Fair. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right, Keno, appreciate you, man. Whenever you're ready, just log on out. We'll see the show out.
See, Keno.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. How did you find that, Daniel, man?
Wow, lots of information. I found the cost sharing very interesting because I hadn't thought about that. And as a modular pilot as well, and just finishing my PPL training, that seems to be the biggest hurdle I have to face next. Like I mentioned earlier, I personally went over budget for my PPL. And I've pretty much depleted everything I have. So progressing beyond where I am right now, it's probably going to take another year or two to build back any reasonable amount of savings to do maybe even 30 hours, not even 100 hours, which is what we need to be CPR ready.
PIC. 100 PIC,
100 PIC. So yeah, it's still a long journey to go, but I'm fully committed. I think I'm really glad I went through the things that I went through that, like I mentioned earlier. That's really just set my mind for, this is a marathon. We're going to do this. It doesn't matter. It's going to take as long as it needs to. We're just going to keep going.
Right. And I love what Keno said. And I always say the same. It's not about what you're doing. It's about who you're becoming.
Yes.
And like he said, it's about the person that you're becoming along the way.
Yeah.
And to some extent as well, the people that you meet and the relationships that you make along the way as well, those have a huge part to play, that community that he was talking about. But yeah, I mean, I felt like, and I have felt like my hour building journey will take a while. But I've enjoyed every step of it. I've tried to make it as enjoyable as possible. Flight to dance, for example.
Yeah, that's really good.
Doing all these different flights, inviting. I've got a WhatsApp group of some of the people who, whenever somebody says, "Oh, I'd like to fly with you," I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let me chuck you into the WhatsApp group." Whenever I got a flight, I will message the group and say, "Hey, this is when I'm flying. This is the day. This is how much it's going to cost me. Contribute as much as you can. Let me know if you can make it." And then whoever can make it says, "Yeah, I can make it," and then they contribute, and before you know it, it's saving you some money. So it's a really good idea, man. But yeah, now you've got some exploring that you can do, with your license, and you can have a lot of fun, which integrated, you're limited. So modular is already cheaper than integrated, and then if you add cost sharing to that, then you make it even cheaper.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined us today. Thank you very much for your questions. I hope you're happy with the answers to your questions. I think I'm definitely going to have to watch this back as well, just to really juice it for what it's worth, So I will be doing that for sure. And also, Daniel, man, your story as well, very inspirational. It's always a good reminder that, when we go through challenges, we think we're unique. We feel very alone.
Yeah.
Wow, everyone else gets through their training, and I'm the one that's getting stuck. Everyone else is hour building, but my hour building is really slow. Everyone else is getting scholarship. Meanwhile, only 1% of applicants got scholarships. But we go, everyone is getting scholarships. I'm not. You know, so it's always refreshing and encouraging to hear someone else having gone through that challenge, felt those same feelings, as a reminder that when you feel those feelings, it doesn't mean that you're done. You know, when you feel like, oh, it's just me, or should I love what you were saying, Daniel, about like, you go, I want to be a pilot, but that's not the be all and end all. You're gonna go, okay, should I? Okay, can I? Okay, should I? Okay, can I? You know, at different times for different reasons. So I think you really brought to life the ups and downs that you have along the journey, you know. But yeah, we've got to keep going because it's the dream, you know. It's the dream, so you can't let go of it. But it takes getting to that point of deciding. It's a decision, you know. I'm hearing you now say it's going to take as long as it takes. That's a decision. I've decided that I'm not going to quit. And Lily yesterday was talking about recording a video to herself and saying, no matter what happens, you're not going to quit this, you know. And then just knowing that that video exists for when she feels like, do you know what, maybe I need to quit. Just knowing it's there, she never allowed herself to get to that level. So it's so interesting to see the little like mind tricks that we have to play on ourselves sometimes to keep going. But any final words from you, Mr. Daniel?
Oh, not sure. I don't want to repeat anything that Keno said. Otherwise, wouldn't be very original. But what I will say, especially to student pilots listening, just know that you're not alone. I think fear, self-doubt, the biggest power that it has over you, it's making you think that you're alone in what you're doing. You might think that the particular life circumstances that you have that makes it so impossible for you to be a pilot is unique to you. It's not. It's really not. There's so many people out there who've been through something similar. And like we've said, joining these communities really does make a difference to that, because it made a difference for me. And I'd say effectively 3 years later, we've got a PPL. And I'm already living my dream. And I would say that I have been living my dream even whilst I was training. So last words is, every time you're doing something towards your dream, you are living your dream. Don't forget that.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? And like you said, a lot of the times, and Keno mentioned, a lot of the times, all these people that you see who have kind of gone through the steps that you're wanting to go through, if you reach out to them, a lot of the time, they're willing to give you time. They're willing to answer questions. They're willing to give you that support that will help you get a leg up. So sometimes it's just about reaching out. And whenever I get people reaching out to me, I always, you know, do my best to respond and support them. So yeah, you're not alone, as Daniel says, and just reach out, build that community, don't give up, and keep going. Listen, guys, it's been amazing to have this incredible week or 4 days of daily live stream. It has been work, I won't lie, because I work full time. Then I get home and I just about have enough time to eat before I go live and, you know, coordinate and everything. It's been very enjoyable, but it has been very tiring, but very worth it. Very worth it. So I'm grateful to all the guests this week, from I call it Prior Fly, on Monday, and Veronica. And then on Tuesday, Tyrone, Isaac Stewart, and Mo. Then Wednesday, Lily. And on Thursday, Daniel, and of course, Keno. I'm very grateful to you all for your contributions this week. If you missed any of those, make sure you go back and watch those, because each and every guest brought something unique that you can use to fuel your 2026 drive towards living your dream. Remember, the show is usually live on a Monday, 7 p.m. UTC on Kick and YouTube, but I'm working next week, so I'll be streaming Sunday night instead. Same time, same place, different day, just for this week. And this Sunday, I'll be telling you about some of the changes that I'm going to be making to the show as we go forward. hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, hit the like button and shout out to the people that, you know, they kind of lurk and just kind of tuck themselves right in the dark corners of the internet, just watching but never chatting. Shout out to you. Thank you for at least skewing the algorithms towards me a tiny bit, even though you're not participating. But hopefully one day I'll see you in the chat and you share a thought or a question and we can have a conversation. If you're on Kick, shout out to all the new Kick followers. Thank you very much for following. Shout out to all the Kick followers. Yeah, thank you very much for following on Kick, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Keno's just joined back. Keno hasn't, he's not had enough. He's not had enough. He wants to share some more. All right, I'm bringing him in a second. Here we go. Keno's back.
Legendary.
He's back. Let's go. Let's go. The show goes on. Encore, 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 encore. What's going on, Keno? Tell me. You're muted, by the way.
No, just I just wanted to listen to more of the show. I mean, it's so good.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, we're just wrapping up. But yeah, so just letting people know that I'll be live again on Sunday. Of course, any of the guests from this week, you're welcome back whenever you want. If you want to chop something up, if you want to, particularly for Keno, if you're getting lots and lots of questions from all your students, and you want to just kind of sit down and talk about one topic, and they can always refer back to that video, more than happy to do that. So any of the guests, you're welcome to come back on the show whenever you would like to chop up a topic. I'm very happy to welcome you. All right, people. Well, how about we wrap it up with the videos for Keno and for Daniel, and you're going to have their social media handles there as well, so you can follow them. They'll be happy to, offer you some support as well if you message them, particularly on Instagram. I think that sounds like the best one to get in touch with them. All right, people. Well, until next time, this is your future captain speaking. My name is D, and this is Future Pilot 901, and I'm reminding you to live your dream. Peace.
Just trust me, you'll be fine. And when I'm back in Chicago, I feel it. Another version of me. I was in it. Just trust me, you'll be fine. And when I'm back in Chicago, I feel it. Another version of me. I was in it. We've come back to the end of the weekend. Celebration, jubilation, no, celebration, what we gon' do for our life. We go day or die, do we my lola, my rade, my jaye, my ramoto, I'm no go she do my lola, my rade, my jaye, my ramoto, I'm no go she do, you go play.
Ever since I was a kid, I had a dream of becoming a pilot, but could never afford it. One day I decided to stop making excuses, to sacrifice my comfort, to make my dream happen. My name is D, and this is my journey. This is Future Pilot 901.